He actually wrote literary criticism, means the critical views of various authors he wrote. He wanted all the money for himself. He didn't want to spend money at all. Convince them that he has not done a mistake. It is all because of somebody else. He is not involved. So everything, all the drama he does. He was living like a person who doesn't have money at all. But people knew that he was very rich. Hello everyone, I am Dr. Shalini, Professor of English, Vidhyaashram First Grade College, the Temple of Excellence, MYSURU. Today we are here to discuss about one of the prose paths prescribed by University of Mysuru for first sem BCom. So let us know what is there in this session, what we are going to learn in today's session. So first thing, we are going to know about the author. After that, we'll have the summary of the short story. Okay, so this is one of the many short stories George Orwell has written. Okay, this is more or less it's in autobiographical mode, like it is George Orwell who narrates the story. Okay, so let us see what is there about the author. So we are going to learn about George Orwell now. George Orwell was the pen name of Eric Arthur Blair. Okay, so that was his original name and his pen name was George Orwell. He was born in Bengal. He was born in Bengal, that is India. Okay, so this is time when he was born was like the British occupied Bengal. So that time he was born. Okay, somewhere near to Burma, this part of Bengal, he was born. Okay, so he was an English novelist. Then he was an essayist. He was a journalist. He was a critic also. Okay. So he was a journalist. He used to write for many newspapers, and in his novels and all, he actually wrote his novels in a kind of satirical manner. Okay, is one of the novels Animal Farm. Okay, Animal Farm is actually a political allegory. Allegory means it's a mock to the politics that was going on during that time. Okay, so somehow he had to mock that. Somehow he wanted to show that the practice, what is going on, the politics that is going on there during that time is not actually good. So he wanted to show that, and that is the reason he wrote this Animal Farm. He did not want to refer to the leaders directly, so he referred to animals and how politics goes on in Animal Farm. He wanted to show that. So it is more or less similar to the human practices that is there in the society, that is the politics that was going on during that time in the society, but he did not take the names of the politicians. Okay, so his Animal Farm actually is a kind of mockery to the politics that was going on during that time. Okay, so he actually wrote literary criticism, means the critical views of various authors he wrote, and also fiction, the imaginary stories, means fiction is nothing but imaginary, maybe novels or novellas or whatever it is an imaginary part. Okay, so that is called as fiction. He wrote that also, and he also wrote poetry. Okay, then also polemical journalism. Okay, so journalism, that is, he wanted to show that authoritarianism, the satire and all in his journalism also. Okay, so he was interested in that. Okay, so he wrote that also. His works were actually an opposition to the totalitarianism. Totalitarianism means a kind of dictatorship, like everything is concerned with the leader only. So that type of leadership he wanted to just oppose. So he wrote about that. And then authoritarian social practices. Authoritarian means only one person is the authority. So he wanted to write about that. He just wanted to oppose that. Okay, he just wanted that practice to end. So that's why he wrote he used those in his works. Okay, so this is George Orwell. Okay, so he is one of the greatest novelists, and mostly he is a critic. Okay, so he used that in his works only. Okay, so yes, now let us move on to the summary of the short story, The Miser. George Orwell is one of the characters. He writes like it is one of the incidents in his life only. Okay, so George Orwell, he just wanders. He has taken off from his work. Okay, so he goes and meets one of his friends, wanders in his neighborhood, means he goes back to his hometown. Okay, so there he wanders there and he meets one of his friends, that is Charlie. Okay, so here let me just tell you, Charlie was working in a bar. He was a bartender. Okay, and George Orwell also had more or less the same kind of work. He had taken leave from his work because he felt he is working as a slave to a slave. Okay, so you can see those words like slave, and he wanted to show that authoritarianism there. He wanted to show that he was a slave for a slave, means he was more or less working under somebody's instructions, which he was not at all happy with. Okay, so he uses a phrase slave for a slave. Okay, so he had taken off from that work and he came to his hometown. He came back to his hometown and there he met his friend Charlie. Okay, Charlie also was working as a bartender somewhere. Okay, so then he tells a fascinating story. Okay, so Charlie and George Orwell are actually very good friends, and whenever George Orwell used to come back to his hometown, Charlie used to tell whatever happened all those years, like the years when George Orwell was away. So that time what and all happened, all the incidents Charlie used to tell George Orwell. Okay, so he tells another fascinating story. So now Charlie has narrated a fascinating story. So what is it? It is about the death of Roucolle, a miser. So this miser, actually, this Roucolle, the miser, he lived for a very long time. Okay, so he was there maybe for 60-70 years. So he lived for a long time and he died very recently, maybe 3 or 4 years back he died. So that story Charlie is narrating to George Orwell. Okay, so let us know little about Roucolle. Okay, he was actually very rich man. He had a lot of money, but he didn't want to spend. Okay, so this, you know, a miser means a person who doesn't spend money. Okay, so he wanted all the money for himself. He didn't want to spend money at all. Okay, so he had lot of money, but he lived like a poverty stricken man. Poverty stricken man means a person who is very poor. Okay, he was living like the person who did not have money at all. You know what he used to do? He used to use newspapers in order to get his undergarments stitched. Okay, he used to use newspapers for his undergarments. He used to take this gunny sack. Okay, in Kannada you call it as goni chila, right? So the gunny sack, he used to just take it, the gunny bags you call it. Okay, so that he used to take and he used to get his trousers stitched. Okay, so he was living like a person who doesn't have money at all, but people knew that he was very rich, but the way his lifestyle showed that he was very poor. Okay, so he wanted to show off to people that he was poverty stricken, but he had lot of money. Okay, so he was offered a chance to invest in cocaine smuggling business. Cocaine is a drug. Okay, so it actually has lot of demand in England. Okay, so it is easily available in France. Okay, France, Mexico and all, it is very easily available. Okay, so you also call it as weed. Okay, cocaine also called as weed. Okay, in this short story there is a usage of this word weed also. Sometimes you call it as coke also. Okay, the short form of cocaine is coke also. It is also called as coke. So what he did, he was looking for ways in which he can earn money. So one day there was a poll. Okay, so poll means a P is always capital because a person from Poland is called as a Pole. Okay, a person from Poland or a Poland man is called as a Pole or Polish also. Okay, is called as Polish, but here we refer to as Pole. Okay, a Poland student, a student from Poland, author refers to as Pole student. Okay, so he comes to Roucolle and he tells, I want you to invest some money in this cocaine smuggling business, and you will earn lot of money. See, it is available for almost very less money in France, and we will import that to England and we will sell it in England. So that is what he says. Then he also thinks, Roucolle also thinks that since we are smuggling, what if we are caught? So for that, this Pole student says, we are not going by the proper channel. There are ways in which you can import also to England, but we are not going through proper channel. We are going in a very long way, but a stealthy way. The reason behind this is that there are already cocaine smugglers who are established in the market. If at all they come to know about the new people who are getting into the market, so that time they would obviously come and attack on these people, the newly entered, the people who have newly entered the market. So the Pole student says, we are going to take a long way. We are not going to take the usual way. So there is no way that we are going to be caught. Okay. So Roucolle actually feels, yes, I should invest. He is very greedy, right? Already he had money. He wanted to earn more and more money. So he is already greedy. Now he wanted to invest. Okay. So initially he shows some interest. Okay. Roucolle shows some interest initially to invest. But later on, he feels, oh, this much money will go. Like the partnership, what they thought of was 6,000 francs Roucolle will pay, 4,000 francs the Pole student will pay. Both of them, they invest 10,000 francs, and later on they will earn money, and after that they will share the money. Okay, so this is what they have thought. So now he starts thinking, oh, 6,000 francs I have to spend. But he also thinks about the money that he is going to receive after selling this cocaine. So he thinks, should I invest on getting that money, or should I let go of this offer? He just thinks for a very long time. So then he started agonizing about the money. Agonizing means he has second thought also about the money. Okay, so he keeps thinking, he doesn't want to act at all. He goes on thinking whether to invest it or not. Okay, so then what happens? He keeps thinking like this. So now somehow one day he was convinced. Okay, every day this Pole student comes, he talks to him, he somehow convinces Roucolle to invest the money. Then he just builds up that greed in him, talking about the money that he will be receiving later. Okay, so somehow he tells him to invest it. So he was convinced to buy 10 pounds of cocaine. So finally they agree upon buying 10 pounds of cocaine. So this is in France. They wanted to import it from France, this 10 pounds of cocaine. Okay, so now he was convinced, he is ready to give the money now. So finally he agrees to give the money. But in the meantime, what happens? Every day this Pole student comes to Roucolle's house, he convinces him and goes back. So there is a new person entering the neighborhood. So all the people will be observing what is going on in the neighborhood, isn't it? Like somebody comes to your house very newly and they frequently start coming, then everybody will be observing. They'll think, yes, some new person is entering the neighborhood. So this way, since the Pole student was frequently seen in the vicinity, so they think that something is going on. So this delay in buying cocaine, like the thinking, the convincing part, it took a lot of time, isn't it? So that delay in buying this cocaine made the news of this buying spread throughout the neighborhood. So now little by little people started getting to know about this Pole student, that he was a drug peddler. Okay, so later on somehow they get the news also, since he was visiting Roucolle's house. So they get to know that yes, this person is into drug trading. So people decide that. So finally everybody comes to know that this person is going to deal cocaine in few days. Okay, so then the day after the delivery of cocaine, so then what happens? He somehow gives the money, then finally he gets the cocaine also delivered. Okay, so after this day, after the delivery of cocaine, his house was raided. So somebody in the neighborhood actually has gone and informed the police that there is drug that is found in Roucolle's house. Okay, so now what happens? Police, they come and raid the house. So that raiding scene is very interesting here. They come to the ground floor. He stays in the third or the fourth floor probably. So they come to the ground floor. Then he will be thinking what has to be done. He is very tensed. Okay, that Pole student is also there. So then there is an assistant also for Roucolle. Okay, so the Pole student thinks, yes, I should leave by now. And when the police is in the ground floor, he actually leaves the place. Okay, so then the police reach the second floor. Then also Roucolle is very confused. He is too confused what to do. Okay, how to, the cocaine is lying on the table. He didn't know what to do. Okay, so he just thinks, he wanted to act fast, but due to tension he was not able to act fast. Okay, so at that age he is taking lot of stress now. Okay, so he is too worried. So then the police reach the next floor. By then he gets an idea. Somebody suggests him, see, there are a lot of cans of this one, the face powder. Do one thing, just pour all the face powder out of the window, then put all this cocaine into the cans of face powder. Then you show that it is face powder only and it is not cocaine. So somebody gives this idea to Roucolle. So he feels, yes, this is fine. So then what he does, by the time he opens the tin and empty tins of face powder, police reach his place. Cocaine is lying on the table, empty cans are there. Then Roucolle is sitting in front of the table. Like he's just sitting that side and the table is this side. There is one more assistant to Roucolle. Okay, so this is the setting over. This is the scene there, and the police enter the house. His house was raided there. Okay, so then what happens? So yeah, as I told you, he fills the empty tins of face powder with cocaine. Few only he could fill, others were lying outside. Okay, so police actually entered to Roucolle's room, but they did not even have a look at the table. They didn't even glance at the table. But Roucolle was already too worried now. Okay, so he was too worried. He didn't know what to do. And Roucolle's accomplice, means the person who was there with Roucolle, okay, he actually said it is just face powder. Okay, so they didn't even look at the table. Then the person who was staying there with Roucolle, he just said it is just face powder. Police did not seem to show much interest in that, but Roucolle just gives out a very painful cry. Okay, so he is already stressed. He didn't know what to do. The person who was there with him intentionally pulled the attention of police towards the table. Okay, so now what to do? So Roucolle felt he is now screwed up. He just gives out a painful cry. Okay, so that time he feels, oh no, I'm screwed up, he thinks. Okay, so that made police feel that yes, he has done a crime. Okay, so then what happens? Roucolle and this Pole were actually arrested. Okay, so the accomplice, okay, so that is all, that is the Pole student, so he was also arrested. Okay, so then what happens? After they just took all these face powder, the tins of face powder, and this one, the packets and all, right? So everything they take it, and when they take him to the cell also, that is when they take him to the jail also, he starts telling them, somehow he wanted to convince them that he has not done a mistake. It is all because of somebody else. He is not involved. So everything, all the drama he does. But police did not believe also. Okay, so somehow they wanted to screw him up. They also knew that he is a miser. Then they were thinking that how come this miser has invested in this cocaine business? He doesn't even spend the money. So how was it possible for him to invest money in that? Okay, actually this Pole student and this Roucolle was placed in different places while inquiry was going on. Okay, so then before that they just wanted to get the testing done. What is that powder that was there? Okay, so they just wanted that testing to be done. Then they send it to the lab. So after they got the result, upon testing the contents of the tin, that is whatever was filled in the tin, so they just tested it. It was found that it was not at all cocaine. Okay, it was they found that it was not at all cocaine. The person who went to get the report, the policeman who went to get the report, actually started laughing like anything. Okay, so he was laughing because for no reason Roucolle is arrested. For no reason he had to face all these stress and all. Okay, so he was laughing like anything, and he brought the report and gave it to the police who was there in the station. So then they actually checked everything. Then they knew that Roucolle, he is not at fault. They just release him, and they also tell him what is the reason for he getting released. Okay, so what happens here is, since they found that it was not cocaine, they also tell him that it is nothing but just a face powder. Okay, so it was not cocaine, it was only face powder. What has happened? The Polish student had actually double crossed everyone. Double crossing means, this word double crossing means cheating. Okay, if I have double crossed somebody, means I have cheated that person. Okay, so he had double crossed everyone, means he told Roucolle that he is going to give cocaine, but what happens? He did not give him cocaine, he just gave him face powder. Okay, so actually Pole thought everything would go on smoothly and he would get that 6,000 francs, but in between only they were caught. But there is a doubt that the Pole student only might have gone and informed the police also, but that is not given in the story. Somebody from neighborhood is told to inform the police. Okay, George Orwell writes it in that way. Okay, so there is no mention that who has informed the police. Okay, so here the police student had cheated everybody, the police, the Roucolle. Okay, so everybody he had cheated. Okay, so then what happens? Roucolle was heartbroken. He was happy that he was released, but at the same time he was heartbroken. Heartbroken means he felt very sad, not because he was cheated, but because his money is gone. Like it was just a very less amount that he has spent out of the property, out of all the property what he has, it is very less amount that he has spent, but still he feels that he shouldn't have lost it. Okay, whatever he has lost is a great loss. He takes that too much into his heart. Okay, so he was heartbroken and he actually suffered money loss. Okay, so he didn't want to lose the money, but he somehow lost it. Along with this money loss, he actually became insane. Okay, insane means he became mad. Okay, so he becomes insane. He was not in his senses at all. Okay, so he comes back to his house, like when he was released and he was sent back, he comes back to his house. He just keeps on thinking about that only, that incident that has happened. Okay, so he keeps thinking about that, he keeps talking about that. So maybe for 2 days, I think he was alive for 2 days. Then his neighbors actually had heard him just scream, cry, laugh in the night and all. Okay, so they thought he has gone crazy, he has gone mad probably. But this all this happened not because he was being cheated. As I told you before, it was only because the money he had lost. He actually did all this. He didn't eat properly, like the eating pattern also changed. So for 2 days he was very much insane. He was almost like a mad person only. Okay, but later what happened, he could not tolerate this for a long time. He died of a brain stroke. Okay, so this entered too much into his head. He could not tolerate all this loss, so he died of a stroke there. Okay, so there was a brain stroke, then he died in his house only. Okay, this is actually narrated in a very funny way. Okay, but you should understand how much, what kind of society was there. Okay, so he could not face the society. Okay, when he had to face his neighbors the next day, it was not at all very easy for him, because he was arrested for no fault of his. Okay, so he did not do any mistake. Okay, only thing is he was very greedy. Okay, and also should have understood, he was not very clever enough to identify all this cheating what has happened here. Okay, so he didn't know how to face the society, he didn't know how to face the neighborhood. So all he had to do was accept his mistake, and he blamed himself for whatever mistake he has done, and he died of a brain stroke. Okay, so he was too much dejected, so he died. Okay, so this was the story that Charlie narrated, George Orwell. Okay, about the story of Roucolle the miser. Okay, so I suggest you have to read the original text so that you will get to know the comedy elements and the way George Orwell has put it in a very comical way, put that satire in a very comical way. The way people lived in those days, how people used to cheat other people in order to earn money. Okay, so how the society was there during those days. So that you have to understand. So I just suggest you to read the original text. Okay, so this was all about Roucolle the miser. Let us meet again with another essay part that is left out by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar in our next session. Okay, so till then, keep learning, stay safe, see you soon, bye bye.